the movies, don't you?
I love the movies.
Yeah?
I just love the musicals.
But isn't it annoying when they do the last song in the films, though?
Why?
Because you just know when it goes really big and the camera goes, like, out of the roof and you just know it's gonna end. I hate that. I would leave just after the next to last song and the film would just go on forever.
I just want to make sure that you fully comprehend what this means. Once this starts, there's no stopping it. Do you understand me?
Yeah, I'm prepared.
Please kill me. You just be my friend and show some mercy, please, and just kill me.
Why did you kill him?
He asked me to.
I just did what I had to do.
I got little games I play when it goes really hard. I just start dreaming and it all becomes music.
I've seen what I choose and I've seen what I need, and that is enough to what more would be great. Get a crash car, rocket bouncer, you can crash that bam. There's always someone to catch me when I fall.
Selma Jezkova, do you have any last words?
I used to dream that I was in a musical. Because in a musical, nothing dreadful ever happens.
Hello, welcome to Movie Hoppers. My name is Bob Shim.
My name is Angela.
I am Bjork. I am Bjork. I'm so sad. The sounds you hear may be dogs. Folks, we took some time off from them because we had some plans for a few months, but now we are back. Back in the Lars von Trier swing of things. It's a dreary year of Lars von Trier. This year's not a great year, right? It's an election year. Of course it's not a great year. And here in the United States, it just sucks, right? Things have sucked for years. So let's talk about one of the most depressing directors. We're back. We're back with Lars von Trier. By the end of the year, we'll have talked about a dozen von Trier movies. And we're finally at the end of what von Trier calls the Golden Hearts trilogy. And also, the first Lars von Trier movie I ever saw. This one was a hit. Cost $12.5 million, made $45.5 million. And the factor that helped it make money, I'm sure, is that it stars the Icelandic pop singer Bjork. I was one of those fans back in that time, during that time, knew a lot of people were big Bjork heads. So when Bjork is going to be in a movie, which she's not in very many, we're going to go see it. And I remember watching this. I saw it in Memphis, and I can't remember the name of the theater. I don't know if it's there anymore. But yes, this was my first Lars von Trier film, and probably maybe the third musical I've ever seen in my life.
I was not a Bjork fan necessarily. I didn't really listen to her music until later. I saw this. At the time, it was what everybody was talking about. You had to see this movie. I came to it a little later, but it was so impactful. It's one of those movies that I remember saying to multiple people, you should definitely see it, but don't watch it alone.
Yeah.
Because it's so gutting.
Relentlessly depressing.
This movie is one of the most beautiful, one of the most heartbreaking. What?
No, go ahead.
You're laughing at me.
We're having a good time here. Say what you're going to say.
Just that this movie is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking. Stop!
What?
Why are you laughing?
I'm just So what?
What am I saying that's funny?
Nothing. I just want you to get through your thing.
I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful and heartbreaking. It's definitely heartbreaking. When we were watching this, you were crying so much. This is probably the hardest you've cried from a movie that we have discussed so far. Mm-hmm. So this movie has made a legitimate impact on you. Mm-hmm. And I will say at the time when I saw it, that this movie seemed very impactful, of course. Mm-hmm. And there is some creativeness here. There is some impact here. But my view on it now is different. I kind of think it's kind of fucking dumb.
Why?
Because it's so goddamn heavy-handed. Like the part where she's shooting, the scene where she shoots the cop.
You shot me.
It's so goofy.
I don't think
so.
so.
You know, I've notoriously brought up the movie Precious.
Yeah.
A relentlessly sad movie.
Do not compare this movie
I
to
am
Precious.
definitely. It would be unfair of me to absolutely trash Precious and laugh at Precious, and then turn around and say that this is so like deep and affecting after I'm laughing at Precious. This movie is technically better than that. I do think that. I think I mean, Bjork performs in it. She sings. She's good at that. She's a excellent performer. Mm-hmm. It has that factor that those parts are good. That's what makes it unique. I'm not against every aspect of this movie, but the relentless waves of sad, crushing, it gets to the point where it just feels completely absurd. And he's doing his, at least the handheld camera part.
He is credited as the camera operator.
Right. There is a cinematographer listed. We haven't even said the name of the movie.
No, go ahead and say all that stuff before you continue laughing at my love of it.
Dancer in the Dark from the year 2000, directed by Lars von Trier, written by Lars von Trier, starring Bjork and Catherine Deneuve. You remember her from Repulsion.
She's wonderful.
Great to see her. Also starring David Morse as the cop who can't say no to his wife. Peter Stormare, who I think prior to this, his biggest role was Fargo. Joel Grey, as he is a big Broadway guy. He played Aldrich Novy.
You will see him later this year.
And Jean-Marc Barr, who we have seen a couple of times in Europa and Breaking the Waves. Breaking the Waves is a great Von Trier movie, unlike this one. But yeah, cinematography by Robert Mueller. And yeah, music by Bjork. We've talked about certain controversies, and I've made it a point to not bring these up until around the times in which they seem the most relevant.
Yeah.
We've discussed a few things about Von Trier, his dry sense of humor, regarding talking about Nazis and how that doesn't come across well. We mentioned we haven't gotten to Manderley yet, but we discussed that John C. Reilly walked from that film when they filmed the slaughtering of a mule that
understandably
they didn't even use for the movie,
which is tragic.
And for this one, some stuff had come out regarding some sexual harassment on the set of this movie, and she identified that there was maybe some culture by the production company of Zentropa. Peter Albig Jensen, who ran Zentropa and is a producer on this movie, he was made to step down in 2017, I believe, because there was a lot of too much culture of harassment under his wing. Like there was a bad aspect of it. Bjork claims that she witnessed some things, but the things that Bjork mentioned that happened to her directly, when she described beat by beat what was going on here with how she dealt with Lars von Trier. And she never wanted to be an actor, but she did this because Lars von Trier was well regarded and she wanted to do this. Since then, she's appeared in her husband's weird art movies, and she was in The Northman for a brief scene. She describes a Lars von Trier who was a little too obsessive with her in particular, maybe like long, like a lot of prolonged touching and contact and hugs and shit like that Apparently he had their hotel was like, his was above hers, and he would try to sneak into her hotel and he would whisper things to her. I think he was just completely infatuated with her and like a child just did not control himself. And you understand why one would be infatuated with Bjork. I certainly was in the year 2000 when this came out.
She's an ethereal fairy princess. She's not human.
And what apparently is ridiculous here is that Von Trier's wife or girlfriend was around at this time. And I think Von Trier was high on his own supply of, I'm a great and creative auteur director. This is a great and creative pop singer.
The fact that she would even be here.
I think he bridged these fantasies in his mind that they would have some intense connection. And eventually she had to put her foot down when he kept trying to come to her hotel room. I think he had this weird creep fantasy in his mind.
That's what it sounds like.
That they would just have this grand connection, but they both admit now that they are not friends. And the guy who ran Zentropa got canned. And I wouldn't be surprised if Von Trier had more to do with sexual harassment cases from that point on, or at least just being a little too touchy-feely. Like, you could just...
Or stuff from before that we just don't know about.
She almost described... When she's making her accounts, there's one point where she claims that when she asked him to stop touching her so much that he broke a chair on set. It's like she's describing a little boy that doesn't realize he's a grown man. And a lot of this only came out within the last, 10 years, so...
Wow.
I think with the Weinstein stuff, it got a lot of juices flowing. Lars von Trier reeling from this and a couple other controversies, but now we go back and we revisit. Tell us about this character of Selma.
Selma is a woman who lives in a trailer behind this cop and his wife, as you mentioned, with her son who's 12. He's going to be 13 soon. She has a genetic disease where she is losing her eyesight. And she knows the same is going to happen to her son, but she keeps it very secret because she's worried that if he knows it's happening to her and that it could happen to him, that it will make it worse.
She's an immigrant from Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
They moved to Washington State. It's like 1964.
It is 1964. She is in love with musicals. She hears music everywhere that she goes.
That's a very Bjork thing as well. I mean, it just definitely feels like this movie is, it's literally
written
centered
for her.
around.
It seems like it's written for her. I mean, it is. She wrote all the music. Sometimes he's credited as well. Lars von Trier did have some input, especially, obviously, there are certain songs that directly relate to the story.
Von Trier and Jensen at the time, when they were responding to these allegations, had stated that they thought it was ridiculous that this notion that Bjork did not have absolute control over everything that she was doing. And she kind of does have that reputation with other things she does. But we've already confirmed that Jensen, there was too much fire under Jensen anyway. But it does seem like she, this movie is a Bjork movie. Mm-hmm. There aren't really Bjork movies, but she's so prolific a personality that she could be in one movie and it can be a Bjork movie.
She could also have the artistic freedom within that and still he could be behaving inappropriately.
Sure.
One is not exclusive to the other. She could still be doing what she wants. I'm sure he was trying to cater to her, but with that, he wanted to touch her all the time. I think you're right. I think he was just enamored with her. He probably truly could not believe she was there.
I mean, at a certain age, if I was sitting in the same room with Bjork, but I'd be much younger, right? I would be practically a little boy. It would be very hard to control my emotions or feelings. I'd probably have to leave the room. Like, this is like one of the biggest pop stars, one of those unique personalities you've ever seen, right?
Selma works in a factory where they are making these metal bins, possibly sinks. They don't explain it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But basically what she has to do is put these metal sheets into a machine, and then the machine comes down and makes it into the bin shape. She's done this job for so long that she can do it even though she's losing her eyesight, but because she daydreams and because she is hearing this music and thinking she's spending this time in her own head, she occasionally makes mistakes, like putting in 2 pieces of metal and that breaks the machine. And her boss, who was in Zentropa,
Jean-Marc Barr,
he's lovely in this. He gives her as much leeway as he can, but he can only protect her so much before the higher ups are going to say she's losing us money.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that she can't see because she's been tricking her doctor, who is played by Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, a brief appearance by Stellan.
He's there at the beginning and then he comes back around for one moment at the end. Always love to see him. She's memorized the letters that you have to say when getting your eyes checked.
She did that to be able to pass and be able to work in this factory.
Because if they had said she couldn't see that, she would have had to lose her job. And so she's working there. She's also doing this thing on the side where she puts bobby pins on cardboard pieces to earn money on the side. It's all a big secret. The story she tells people is that she's having to make all this money to send to her father back in Czechoslovakia.
Aldrich Novi.
Who is a real person who was in musicals, played by Joel Grey, as you mentioned. But she has concocted this story that he is her father and she's sending things back to him. Meanwhile, she will not buy her son presents. She won't spend money on anything. So all of her money, she's got it in a hidey hole in her house.
The most convincingly tragic part of the movie is the fact that this movie is also about the love of movies.
Yes.
And the love of musicals. She goes to the theater with her friend Kathy, played by Catherine Deneuve, and Kathy has to describe what's going on. She loves musicals. The movie's roughly named after like a Fred Astaire movie or something. But she's losing the eyesight. And I mean, I know she doesn't have the money. She's saving the money so her child can get the surgery, which we reveal
She's too
later.
far gone,
But
I believe.
she wouldn't be able to get this surgery if she happened to have the money, I guess.
I've always understood it to be that at some point she could have, but it's too far gone now. It's inevitable that she's going to lose her eyesight. Her son can't be operated on until he's 13, but at 13, he can have this operation. They didn't have the ability to do this operation in Czechoslovakia. She had to come to America. And that's the whole reason she came to America, so that she could save Jean.
And on the same property as this little house. And it's described as this well-to-do family, but everything just seems kind of regular, right, with them.
He's a cop. They're regular. They say that he's got all of this inheritance money. And so his wife spends money. They don't have anything that's super great.
The way they talk about how much Selma says to her son, like,
You should ask Bill about his money. Linda likes it when we talk about that.
in my experience, anyone who would inherit a lot of money if they were really hyper-focused on appearing well-to-do would not admit to inheriting it, would make up some kind of claim that they had earned it or invested or some shit
I don't know.
like that.
You know, there's people who brag about what they have.
I'm saying that there's a way that they would brag about it. Not that they wouldn't, but it just seemed a little funny to me, the bridge here on this to lead to this little plot point. But the cop guy, he and Selma tell each other's secrets. Mm-hmm. And Selma tells him that she's been saving all this money and she's almost there for Jean to get her son Eugene to get.
And she tells him that after he's admitted to her that he doesn't have any money.
That he's completely broke and he can't say no to his wife and she wants a new couch. There's also a thing where when we first meet her son Eugene, he's presented like he's supposed to be this bad boy. And she says something like,
school.
but she said something like,
You're hanging out with those automobile thieves.
So what?
He's learning. Tell me he's learning.
"You're hanging with those automobile thieves again, aren't you?" And he's like, "So?" And this is like the worst we see of this kid. This kid is just a vehicle for tragedy.
He's mad at her a lot, though. Like, he doesn't want to do anything that she says. At one point, they're sitting at the table and she asks him if he's tired, and he looks at her and says, "Why do you always ask me these stupid questions?"
Yeah, but
He's an angry kid because she won't let him have anything or do anything. She won't even let him have a bike. They buy him a bike and she eventually caves. But she's someone who loves him so much, but doesn't really know how to show it other than working really hard.
But after the bike scene, this kid goes straight into the background, and we don't really see him anymore. It's just, we hear his name more than we actually see him, it feels like. And I will say, because I do have some deep criticisms here, that Bjork does do a great job here.
She's brilliant in this
She is quite good at being incredibly sad and fucking tragic, and I can't deny that she plays that type of role solid. And everything that she is meant to portray and meant to do, she does a fine job. I don't have any complaints about her performance. It's very good. Oh, she also has this guy who crushes on her, Jeff, played by Peter Stormare.
He always wants to give her rides home from work.
He's the Lars von Trier in this movie. He's obsessed with her. That character is Lars von Trier. Like, he's showing up real early.
What are you doing here?
If you need a ride home.
I don't even punch out until after another 2 hours.
Well, sometimes you punch out around this time.
I never punch out early.
Don't need a dumb. Don't need a ride.
Waiting around for her to come around.
She tells him at one point that she doesn't go with him because she doesn't want a boyfriend. That if she wanted a boyfriend, she would pick him, but that she doesn't want that right now. Mm-hmm. The reason she doesn't is because she's so single-minded in getting to her son's 13th birthday that literally nothing else matters. She does care for Jeff. She loves Kathy. She calls Kathy, is it Kevalda?
Yeah.
Which basically just means that she's a person with light, like she's a happy person.
So Selma is working a third shift one night to make some extra money, and that's when the sounds of the factory that she works in starts to work itself into a beat. I actually had the soundtrack for this when I was in the younger days. And then this is when it first starts off that she can hear songs and suddenly she will be in a musical.
Clatter, crash, clack. Cricket, bang, sound. Rattle, clang, crack, suck, whack, bang. Clatter, crash, clack. Cricket, bang, sound. Rattle, clang, crack, suck, whack, bang. It's music. Now dance.
And the songs themselves are really great. I think they're my favorite part of the movie, the actual music itself. Now, with this particular scene, throughout this movie, we got that Von Trier hand cam Dogma 95-esque style he does. It's not a pure Dogma 95 movie.
No way.
But it holds that blurred cam. And to shoot this scene here in this factory, I had read that they set up a bunch of digital cameras surrounding the place and use cutaway methods and this would help shave time off of the production itself. The music, the song itself was interesting, and the concept behind it, the creative idea. I hated the way this was shot. They set this up with all these cameras, right? And you see people dancing, but it's cutting away so fucking much that it's driving me insane. In some ways, when you're going in and back and forth to the scenery and stuff, but it just seemed like this movie would have been, where up to this point, we've seen Lars' style that he's established, right? And it's not bad at all. And like, he's a creative guy and he knows what he's doing. But this is the first time in which I kind of wished he had moved on from that style a little bit early in his film trajectory at this point, because I was just imagining how cool this would have been if this shit pulled back. Like, it is a Fred Astaire movie, and we're just concentrating. Maybe even the camera quality itself changes. Like, it's like a real deal musical, and we get these more patient shots of people dancing and moving around amongst all this machinery. Make it look like, not like the actual factory, but something like more of a fantasy. Bjork actually had a video, I think Spike Jonze directed it. It's called It's Oh So Quiet, right? Where she's going through the streets and it starts real calm. And then it breaks out into like a show tunes musical number. And you see, and the camera's pulled back and you see people doing tricks with umbrellas. It's a great video. That's the example you could have had to really capture these musical performances. And I think if you made these so bright, so shiny, it would have only contributed and make the tragic things even more tragic, as opposed to, for me, feeling like it was just so beat you on the head that it was approaching absurdity.
It did not bother me. I didn't notice the crazy cutting, but there were people.
Nuts.
I understand what you're saying, but to me it was like all these people are doing.
Point.
You can't really pull back because there's machinery in the way. I wasn't upset by it. I thought it was fine. I also do think that it goes enough.
It becomes a fantasy, though.
It is a fantasy.
So just embellish into the fantasy of it. It doesn't have to be a literal thing. It can transform, right?
But I think it was enough. The same thing is repeated. This is the first time, like you said, that they do a number. Mm-hmm. And it is the biggest number for sure. There's one later on the train. There's one in the courtroom. I don't have any problems with the train one. I don't have any problems with the other musical scenes. It's this one that I thought was really... overcooked with the cutaways. I liked it. I also think it goes far enough that when it cuts back to reality, it is not as harsh of a change as what I think you were wanting, but I feel that. Like when the music stops and she's then standing there again, like there's enough of a shift.
But yeah, the train scene, which she does with Peter Stormare, and on the soundtrack version, it's Tom York singing this part, where he notices that she's losing her sight, and she's like, "Oh, and she sings a song about how, like, oh, it's no big deal. I've seen a little bit. I've seen everything."
You've never been to Niagara Falls.
I have seen water. It's water that's all.
The Eiffel Tower, the Empire State.
My pulse was as high on my very first day.
And there's people on the train, and there's people fishing, and like coordination. And this one is done a lot better, in my opinion. And I feel like I like the songs up until the very end. I like the songs pretty good. Mm-hmm. The courtroom song, Always There When You Catch Me, that goes from the rehearsal, because she's trying to be in The Sound of Music, but she's going blind, so it's not going to work out. And then that leads into the courtroom scene, which we'll get into why she's there. That song is really good too. Like, I like all the way those were made. The David Morse character, he's trying to ask her for loans, and that he'll just pay back in a month. We all know he's not going to pay it back. But at one point he pretends to leave, and since she can't see for shit, she doesn't know that he's in the room. So he watches to see where she puts her salary in the tin for the money to pay for the kid's surgery. And then one day she comes home and it's gone. And she walks out to the house.
She's also gotten let go, because this is one too many times. Because she was so tired. He came over that night after she'd done her second shift.
Right. That's when, after the first musical number, she breaks the machine, which leads her getting fired the next day. Mm-hmm. But she goes to the house because she only told one person where this shit was. I mean, she doesn't think to blame her son, who hangs out with the automobile thieves.
You're hanging out with those automobile thieves.
So what?
But we know it's not the son. We know
you're
it's
like
the
hanging
cop.
on to that. It doesn't matter.
She goes and she talks to him, and the cop's wife immediately confronts her, like, "Oh, you made a pass at him. You tried to get him to come into the house." They made a promise not to tell each other's secrets, so she doesn't like say, "No, that's not it." That she keeps the promise.
I told her it was you who wanted to, that you'd fallen in love with me.
I know. She told me.
And what did you tell her?
Nothing.
You didn't tell her I was lying.
Mom, it's still hers, right?
And she goes upstairs and she's asking for it, and he's like, I tried to kill myself, and I couldn't do it. She's just so proud of me when I'm holding this lockbox of money, and then
he says he borrowed her money just to make it look like he had money.
And then she goes and she grabs the money, but he's stopping her, and he pulls a gun out. He's like, "I tried to shoot myself, but I couldn't."
Just feel it. Feel it. Just feel it. Feel it. Do you believe I have the gun?
I believe you.
And then he's like begging her to shoot him.
You just be my friend. And show some mercy, please, and just kill me.
Begging and begging. And this scene is so overwrought.
I don't
And
think
so absolutely silly.
I don't
like,
think it's silly
why?
at all.
You don't have to pull the trigger. Just don't pull the fucking trigger. Why is she pulling the trigger?
Can't you just stand up and pull the goddamn trigger?
Because
she
she
needs the
said
money
so?
because she's trying to get the money. She feels trapped. She knows that
You can't spend the money in jail.
she
in
doesn't
prison.
care about herself. She only cares about getting the money to the doctor, which she has a date with Jeff to take her there. Not a date, but he's supposed to take her to the doctor. The only thing that matters, she's lost her job. She even says at one point that I can't make any more money. It's all over. I have to go give it to the doctor today.
He's like, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me. And she's like,
She's traumatized.
bang! Oh!
I think you're pushing it a little
This
far.
scene
It
was
is good.
dumb.
No, it's
This
not
scene
dumb.
was fucking dumb.
You can say that. That's fine if you feel that way. But I really think that the way it builds up to that moment, it worked for me. This whole thing is traumatic. She feels very stuck. I don't know if it's because they immediately go into the
Well, she's
"you
real
did
stuck
what
now.
you had to do" song, but she obviously dissociates after this
I like
happens.
that song too.
I love that song, and this is the part where the boy sings too, and he's outside riding his bike in circles singing, "You just did what you had to do. You did what you had to do." She didn't see another way out in that moment because at that point, he'd already told his wife that she had shot him. And the wife was going to get the cops. So no matter what, the cops were going to come and take her away.
I mean,
but
she
were they
really-
going to take her away and she's not going to have the money? She just had to get that money.
So, well, she really is a murderer now. But
She did kill him, but he did ask her to, but she did kill him.
oh, you didn't think it was funny when she's just slamming his skull with the lockbox?
I thought it was horrible.
You can't stop a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Like in a horrid way. He was like not letting go, and she felt like she had no other options. She also couldn't see. You have to remember that she can't.
I mean, yeah, she couldn't see, but she hit her target very, actually,
I mean, she
shot into
did
the
not
floor a
hit her
few
target
times.
that great because she can't see. She felt like she had to do that. She's crying. She's upset.
Well, she had perfect aim with the lockbox. So
Closer target.
Stellan Skarsgård would be like, yeah, she could see. Look, she just bloodied him with the lockbox like that. But she goes and she stashes her bloody clothes and manages to bring them the money to where the son's going to get the surgery. Fortunately, everywhere she needs to be is along railroad tracks and rivers. Fortunately,
And the doctor,
including the doctor's office,
who she had spoken to already, accepts the amount of money that she brings him, even though it's not really enough.
and so they're holding that money. So Eugene is scheduled to have this surgery, but she has to put it under a different name, the Aldrich Novi. So
Yeah, she says that his last name is Novi.
So sure enough, she gets arrested, and we have a courtroom scene. And she has even for a movie, she has to have like the worst defense attorney like you've ever seen in your life. We
don't see him say a word.
The prosecution is like, oh, she thinks communism's better, but she loves Fred Astaire. What do you think about that, jury? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And the defense attorney is just like sitting there. It doesn't go well for her. She's sentenced to death.
We do get, though, this is where Joel Grey comes in, and he testifies that he is not her father. And
he's playing Aldrich
a
Novi. Yeah.
beautiful scene together.
I didn't mind it at all that you were having a ball at my musical, and I was always there to catch you.
You were always there to catch me.
Yeah, I like this.
That's maybe the one I would have loved to be in the room for. Any of them, but that's the one that just...
You'd be on the jury for this one.
I mean, I would just want to be a spectator of the two of them interacting with each
I would
other.
want to
Because
be
I
on
also
the jury.
think that he's amazing.
I'd want to be on the jury.
Okay. She refuses to tell them the truth because she's
still...
She is not a smart... Listen, she's not maybe the most intelligent woman, but it's because she... again, has one single goal, and she knows that if she tells them she gave that money to the doctor, they'll go get it.
Well,
if she tells them what it was all for...
Well, Jeff and Kathy figure it out, and they actually get the money.
Jeff figures it out,
They get the money from the surgeon, and there's a chance that she could have a stay of execution in a retrial, since her defense was so fucking awful. But when she realizes that the cost to pay for the retrial and the stay of execution is the amount of money that she gave, and she realizes where they got the money from, she refuses because her son needs to have that operation. So she does not sign on to the stay of execution, and that's just how it is. She won't see her son because she doesn't want him to see her like that. And Kathy's super upset about it. She's taking care of her son now. And it's brutal, right? And so when the day of execution comes, it's a song of 107 steps to get to the execution chamber. And so she's dancing around, and she's going into the during the song, she's going into the cells of other people that are waiting on death row and like comforting them, which I actually thought was really nice.
It's beautiful.
Though there were very nice moments there. This scene, the tension of this scene is, and how long it drags out. It just feels, and I think there's something about the fact that I have seen this movie before as well. I probably felt that tension, that weight a little more the first time I saw it. And knowing where it was going and how long it would be, I felt a little more impatient maybe this second viewing. Like, I get it, and she plays this broken person so incredibly well. I can't deny that. But by the time she's dangling on the end of the rope, not that I wanted to see that, but by the end of the movie, I just felt like I was like, finally, this movie is over.
Wow.
Angela's blown away.
I am, because there's nothing like this movie. It's so unique. The perspectives in that final scene, I agree. I love when she stops and has these moments with the different other folks who are waiting on death row. I love the guard that has a relationship with her. That woman is good. We've seen her in other places, but I can't tell you where. She's great. Selma is just, it's so like raw and honest. It's more about how it's making you feel than how long it's fucking taking. I guess I was just tuned into it in a way that you were not.
Well, we've gone on. It made me feel something, just not what you felt. Well, that's Dancer in the Dark from 2000.
Her son did get the operation.
Yeah, congrats, Eugene.
And she gets to know that right before she dies.
I am happy about
when
that.
she sings when they have her on that board and she's singing, I don't know. This whole movie just like guts me.
Well, we're going to go 1 through 5 each, combined for best out of 10. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'm giving it a 5.
5?
I am giving it a 5. I love this movie. I think it's great. I understand that we disagree, but I wouldn't change anything about this movie. I think it on purpose drags out when it drags. I think it is supposed to be uncomfortable.
I think you're just saying it's a 5 because of the way you
No, I decided
And
earlier.
look, I think it's great we don't agree. I think it's great. But I don't think this movie is lacking in talent. It's a very well acted. I like a lot of the musical stuff, but it's just the script, the story itself, and it's just drag ass to the point of where it just feels goofy. And like I said, if I sit here and like clown on Precious, and yet I'm gonna be like, oh, this is just no.
I don't see it as the same, because I understand the clowning on Precious because it's like
this is white Precious.
More and more and more and more things keep happening to her. There's only one thing happening to this woman. She is she's going blind.
Oh, that's more than that.
but it's because she goes blind that she loses her job. That's all like part of it. The thing that is so bad is that the man steals the money from her, and then that changes her trajectory until the end of the film. I think it's good. I love it.
Because the acting and the music is, I have no complaints about those. It's just the story itself and the ham-fisted nature of it is just goofy. But the best I can do, I do feel like 5 is too high. And as tempted as I am to go even lower than I intended to counter your 5, I'm going to be fair and say that it's a down the middle 2.5.
Wow.
The solid acting and the creative music concepts, and the bad half is everything else. Hokey. But you went 5. So that brings it to a 7.5. So check it out. It's a B+. It falls under the Hall of B tier. Dancer in the Dark rests between the movies Cruising by William Friedkin and Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick. It is at least as good as that. Are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you, but I do think that like if I had come in here and laughed at Master and Commander the entire time, you would have been pissed.
No, I wouldn't. No,
you would
absolutely not. Because you know why? Because we're different people.
Fair. I mean, yeah.
And I could take a ball busting.
That's fine. It's one thing to disagree, but I feel like you're laughing at me. That's what is not cool.
I'm not laughing at you.
Think about it. Are you?
It's just funny. I mean, I at least I didn't change your mind. I didn't like.
No, you're not going to, because I think it's great.
You still have your ideas about it, and I think that's great. It's good that we don't agree on all these movies. Sometimes I feel like we agree too much. Maybe the way we talk about all these movies, and we're minor disagreements. It seems like for the most part, we crave the same things out of movies, and it's actually nice that this one is a bit more divisive. I suspect that this one deserves to be one of our more notorious episodes, I think.
Yeah.
That said, like, I would put this, I think this is the lowest I've rated a Lars von Trier movie so far. I mean, Breaking the Waves, why do I get the feeling that nothing's going to be better than that?
Breaking the Waves.
Well, you think this is as good as that.
Amazing, but I really love both of those movies. I love both of them for different reasons.
This is one of our longer ones we've discussed lately, so let's get out of here. What do we say at the end of the Von Trier discussions? Oh, hold on, sorry. Like subscribe, check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think about Dancer in the Dark. Are you more on her side or are you more on my side? My side, right? I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's get out of here. What do you say?
Death to all traitors.
You can't start a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire, even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Hanging out with those automobile thieves.
So what?